Mellow greetings, engineers. Bob here, and today we are going to do another start on the public servers. So let me go ahead and choose another difficult start. We'll go with the Europa drop pod, and let's begin. So in order to start a new start while you're already established in the game, you need to disable all of the survival kits and med bays and respawn points of your faction, your base, anything that you have. And what I tend to do is set them on a timer so that they will turn on automatically afterwards. That way you don't lose everything entirely. And give yourself a little backspace to respawn with that timer block set to turn everything on. That way you can return back to your stuff should you need be. And that's how you get the option to choose another respawn pod. And that is what I am doing here. So with the Europa start, I do find this one to be a little more difficult. And that's because Europa doesn't have any stone. Stone being the only thing that the survival kit will process. So in order to get a good start on Europa, what you're going to have to do is you're going to tear this pod up enough and do another small grid to large grid conversion so that you can have a refinery and an assembler going. And with those in place, you can actually use the resources around here. You need that refinery first so that you can build everything else. In order to do this, you actually have to have this progression, and under the assembler you'd have to build a battery, and then with that battery would unlock pistons and rotors and hinges, and these are what you're going to need in order to convert from the small grid ship to large grid so that you can actually build the refinery necessary to continue doing everything else. So with that said, we will need to grind down a fair amount of this ship, so let's get to it. I don't have the crosshairs on, so it does make it a little difficult to see exactly what you're looking at, but you can always pay attention to that right-hand side and it tells you which block you're looking at. I can go between one slope and the other slope there, because that's what's available, and that's what shows that you're looking at. It's what you're grinding on. And we're also going to want to carve out a little more of this. I've got several landing gear on here. I see one locked, but this one's going to be removed, so my pod's probably going to shift here. But these are all set to auto lock, so I do not mind it moving. There we go. Now I've got two more locked, and I will take the items out of my chair. And I will grind this guy down. Just need access to some of the stuff in the back here. Grab that. I do not need this timer block or this beacon. I can get rid of both of you. And this parachute can also go. And take that. Eventually that parachute will come off. This hydrogen thruster, I do not want you. And this conveyor, I will move. That conveyor is free. He's gone. We'll take down this block. I see it's not grinding, so my game is lagging a bit. There we go. Sometimes you have to be patient on the public servers. I'll take that. I'll take you. Don't need you. I will take it, and I'll actually take the both of you. Let's go ahead and replace you both. And I'm using these because this will pipe me up top too. And that's something I'll need in a bit. Something I need currently is this remote control. I also want a chair. There we go. Not any of these cockpits. Those are too expensive. Just the passenger chair. Just to put my butt in a seat. And while I'm attached to this, the ship here, I can actually use the respawn pod remote control I just put in order to fly the ship. I'm going to cut away some of this blocks back here. There we go. And I want this guy. I need your tube. Put my gyroscope here. Orientation doesn't really matter because I hopefully won't need to do the overrides. And it's not really seated in a great location anyways. Just try to make the best out of the pod that I can. And you can look at a container, and you don't have to have the grinder out, but I do at the moment. I'm going to hold Alt and a middle mouse button, and it's going to try to deposit everything that can be deposited into there. And so it did. And some other items I can put in this chair. I can put those items, and there we go. Now I have my full inventory again. Let's come up here. I don't need this antenna. You definitely don't want to be found out here on Europa. And that's mostly because moons, such as Europa, are very easy to access. They have only a quarter gravity, about 3 kilometers of gravity well from where the gravity well ends to the surface of the planet. So if you had a well-established player intending to do harm, they could very easily drop in and you can take out anyone that you want if you want it to be a griefer. So that's why we're going to try to stay a little hidden. I'm just clearing up this little bit of space here. This little bit of space will be very valuable for when we start to do a conversion for our small grid to large grid. And really the next thing that I'm going to want to do to prepare for that is I'm going to need to find some iron, some nickel, and some silicon before I really want to do too much more with this. Oops, I'm out of energy there, started dying. Pop in my seat and I can regain a little bit of energy from it. I'm going to want to put a conveyor converter up on top, and I can put an advanced rotor on top of that, and then I can put a large grid advanced rotor in its socket, and with that I can actually put the refinery on top. Not a full refinery, just a basic one. Okay, so I got 2 lifting thrusters. That should be more than enough here. And do I have enough to build? I do not. So with my welder out, I can look at my incomplete item here. I can do a right click to add things to the build planner, middle mouse button to withdraw from a container, and then I can come back and just tap. And now I see I need a large grid, or sorry, a large steel tube and a metal grid. So I have one of you grids. I will right click, drag over. I need that. And large steel tube in my chair. Right click, hold, drag, drop, select my number, and should be good there. And now my bar, I can actually use this because you can't do anything from the passenger seat. But from here, I'm going to do my groups. I've got my Atmo thrusters. I can turn you on. I can turn Atmo thrusters off. I can turn my pod switch lock landing gear. But this is all I really need in order to fly. And as such, I need to zoom out a little bit. Maybe I can tab around and see something I'm looking for. Yep, actually straight ahead is a little discoloration mark. It looks kind of pink, and that's where we'll be going. So unfortunately I hit F there, which canceled me out of the control. So I will get back into my remote control and turn on all my thrusters, unlock my landing gear, and just pop up, and we'll just cruise forward just a bit. You can see the ore detector is picking up ice everywhere. That's one of the annoying things about a Europa start, is that ice is detected by the ore detector, and there is no stone, it is all ice. So it is only ice and ores that you want. As I come over this way, I'm just going to kind of cancel my thrust in all the directions. This is on a bit of a slope, which isn't the best. Try to level myself out and just spin a little bit to cancel all the momentum. And see if we can get touchdown. I see nickel and iron. This is excellent for a start here. Land, switch lock, pull out my drill. Oh, this is very good. Cobalt, iron, and nickel. I'm definitely going to need silicon before I can start drilling anything here and it be of worthwhile. So the next thing I can do is continue to hunt around. I see here's some more pink stuff. We want to be very careful about thrusting too high on any of the moons. They don't have a whole lot in the way of an atmosphere. So while I am very capable of flying around currently, if I get more than, I think it's probably all of 300 meters or so, I'm going to run out of atmosphere for my thrusters to actually work in. So you have to be very careful because it's very easy to achieve escape velocity with even one thruster on this pod. Silicon's the only other thing I really need at the moment to get started. With the 3 basic ores, iron, nickel, and silicate, I can get pretty far in what I need. And then I've already found my gateway for the cobalt, so I'll be in a good position to pretty much do whatever I want as far as building goes with just those basic 4. Europa also has gold and silver and platinum. It has everything I need for quite some time. This would be significantly easier if I were using the jetpack, which you're more than welcome to do, but I want to try to do as little hand mining and little as flying as possible. I want to try to engineer some solutions. This is a discolored patch right there. Let's turn, kill some of our energy. That looks like silver. Usually where there's silver, there's gold. I see nickel and platinum, which is very good. Just looking for discoloration patches and boulders. If we see any boulders, those will also be worth noting. It'll be easy access to ore on the surface. That way we don't have to drill down. Not that it's going to be much difficulty for us. Right now we just need to find our ores. And you can really find everything within about a 5-kilometer radius of any other given ore patch on here. That's just how packed everything is. And it's pretty easy here on public servers. Here's another one here. I see nickel, I see magnesium. Oh, I saw silicon too. I think that's where we're going to pause so we can land, and we'll pick one of those iron ones for a first start point. But something I can do while I'm here is I can get myself a handful of silicon. I'm not going to need a super ton, but I am going to need enough for computers. Computers are the limiting factor of what I need right now, and we'll see why in just a minute. So if we hit V to change view and zoom way out, I see there is a magnesium and an ice and a nickel, and I want to go towards that silicon, and I can make these pop up by holding Alt, and I just want to wander around until I make this number as small as possible. Close as I'm going to get. I'm going to look down, I'm going to double right click with that drill and crouch, and I'm going to begin drilling at my feet. And the gravity is going to keep me going down towards the hole that I'm drilling. And I might have to move around a little bit just to get collision with the next voxel. But I will be able to move down into the hole. And the way the ore detection works in this game is that it doesn't really pick like the center of mass or even the closest location on an ore deposit. You're kind of given just a point somewhere, and that is what the detection will go to. So it's not necessarily at the edge. I could, drill down another couple of meters here and actually find the silicon deposit, or the part that it's giving me could be on the far side of the deposit. So the silicon should be getting close, and that silicon on the side there. I'm going to keep digging down just a little bit further. And I'm doing that because I need a place for some of this ice to fall. So all of this right here is silicate. And I will double click on the drill with the left click, and that's actually going to pop out the material for me to grab. And if you hold F while you're doing that, you can actually pick up the material as it actually starts to appear. And I can see my inventory starting to fill up, which is also desirable. Unfortunately, there's going to be a lot of ice in it, and I don't really want the ice right now. and it's easy to get ice everywhere. So I will drop out the ice. Should have dropped off those other materials, and that way I can have more silicate. Looks like the server's going to restart in 10 minutes. So this is also a good time to point out that if you are playing on the public server during the time of a restart, it does not count you as being logged out. So even though I will be technically offline for a moment, this will not be removed. So that I can come up here. And let's take the converter. And I will label the converter, we'll lay the converter that way. That way my pieces are going across and they'll be joined. And let us add a advanced rotor on the top here. The advanced rotor is 3x3 and it will sit there. We'll remove the small head from it as I do not need that small head. What I do need is a bit of a barrier around here. What I'm doing is making a base for my large grid advanced rotor part to fall into place down here. My vehicle is locked to the ground because this next part can be a little weird, and that's also why I wanted to be on relatively even grounds here. I can come over here, stand directly on top, and I want to cycle through so I can find an advanced rotor part, and that's it. And I want to tap my button again, so now we can see we're large grid. Looking over the symbol just under where it says part, kind of blurred out in the sun there. So I toggle between it. I can go between large grid and small grid. I want the large grid, look straight up, click, move out of the way so it doesn't kill me, and it should fall right into place. There we go. Beautiful. This next part would probably explode everything if I weren't locked to the ground, and it very well could still explode everything, and I want to attach my rotor head. It's probably being blocked by some of these blocks, and with it being as close as it is right here, that would definitely cause some phantom forces. You can see it jumble around a bit in there. So those are definitely phantom forces in the way, and that's not something that you would want to have normally with the extra blocks here. So I'll get this. Whoop! It kicked me away there. That's just how unhappy the grid is, so I am trying to get rid of these extra blocks so it doesn't want to bounce around, and it can rest nice and happy. Otherwise, you would risk evoking the Lord Clang, and we do not wish to anger Lord Clang. So here we have our parts in place, and that is good. And with the large grid conversion up top, we can go and add our basic refinery. And this will be necessary to get all of our materials refined. Let's go up here and see exactly what we need, because I will take it from the rest of the pod and move back and forth. So with my welder out, I can do a right click on what I have here, this basic refinery, and add those components to the build planner. From the build planner, I do not want that thruster. I do want this basic refinery, and we can see we need motors and computers and steel plates. And with that in our queue, I can take out some of the material from our survival kit, which is acting as a cargo container. Middle mouse button will try to withdraw those items. And we can see that the inventory was increased. Add these materials in. I'm still missing computers and steel plates. I know that there are computers in my survival kit. I have 5 here. I know there are computers in my H2O2 generator, 3. And I know there are computers here in my ore detector, and that's another one. We just got cut off there by the server restart, but as we had tried to stay connected to the server during the restart, we were able to keep everything despite this being a temporary survival pod. So do not fret about the server restart. You are still technically in-game. But now that we have restarted, I do need to sort out an item here, and that is the refinery that we are building needs some more plates and 8 more computers. Let's top off my resources here. And with that, I can take down these computers, which are just above that functional line. I have all of them. And I can take down these computers, all of those, and add them into here. And I'm still missing 10 steel plate, which is terrible timing for me. There we go. And now I can put this online. There we go. And now I can throw silicon in it and get that working for me. I will take all of the silicon and I can put everything else in the chair as I get this pumping. And while that's also pumping, I'm going to grab some of this iron and nickel here. I will need both of these. The only thing that I have to build stuff with currently is that survival kit, but I took it offline for its computers. So once I have the materials necessary to build computers, which I will have now shortly, once I get the materials refined from the refinery, I will take the refinery offline, distribute its computers back to the survival kit, and take all these materials I'm gathering out of the refinery and put that into the survival kit as well. That way I can have the resources necessary to go back and forth and get my initial production up and running. And I can put the iron in the pod as well. And I can just Alt middle mouse button and drop that iron. You see it's all in there. And let's drop my ice. Do not want that at the moment. And we'll have to wait here for a moment as we refine. Really, I just need these two going. So I can actually take this offline now and be pretty safe. I will do so. I will take the silicate and the iron, and then I will take my computers back, all 10 of those. I can come over here and put this back online. I will need its display from the chair. Back online, and now I can dump all of my materials in there. Alt middle mouse button. And I know for a fact that I will need 10 computers. Holding control and clicking on an item will build me my 10 computers. And since I already knew that's exactly what I needed, I just told it to do so as opposed to using the build planner. Do whichever you would like to get you what you need. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inventory of all inventories. I'm going to take my computers and I can jump back up and get that back online. I will take that into my inventory. Thank you. Boom. So now my pod is back online to an extent, but we're not fully done with what we want. I needed one more computer for that remote control, and I can add it back in pretty much wherever. We'll put you here, and then I can get a couple more blocks out. And I'm getting those extra blocks because I want to put some thrusters in here. With a thruster in all the directions, it'll give me a substantial amount more control. 1, 2, 3. I can get those components from here. And things that I do not have, I can tell it to build. I can tell it to produce. Shift, middle mouse button. I also want this lifting thruster online. Weld it up. And same for you. And I've got some metal grids and tubes in the chair, things which I cannot produce at the moment because I need to get a basic assembler going. And the basic assembler is found in the survival kit icon. I can just sort through. And our basic assembler, I will want to put upwards facing. Normally you would want these ports aligned so that they can feed into each other, but that would block off my access to the big parts that are in the basic assembler, and I do not want that. The next things I will want to do for this pod are get rid of this chair in its entirety, and that way I can have a cockpit, and with a cockpit I can have a drill, and that way I can just fly around and gather my materials. Also going to need to pipe the rest of this, or rather continue assembling it, build it up, and that way its piping will actually be functional. Take the rest, and we'll get this online. And with this, we can actually have the assembler, which is much quicker, continue the production from here on. So we will cancel the rest of these builds, and I will take this material and I will put you into my assembler. I can also start to work on this. Do not need the chair, and I can put a cockpit in here. So with the cockpit, I've got 2 ports on the outsides there, so that would be, if this were like a phone pad, it would be number 4 and number 6 there, and that's exactly what corresponds to the port that's sticking out. And so I will put the cockpit in, and we'll also put a drill, since that has a port on the back here, and the cockpit has one in the front. This will connect my drill to my cockpit, and my cockpit to the rest of the assembly, and everything would be good if it were completed building. But I'm not completed building yet, so I will need to continue to work on that. And this is just in time as my suit's energy is running out. With the cockpit complete, I will be able to sit in here and recharge. I can also put all of my groups in. And now I will add these to my toolbar, so I can put my groups. We'll put a landing gear, switch lock, the braking thrust, and we'll turn you off. And the rest of the thrust, you can be turned on. And the rest of the thrust, turn off. And my drill, I will have you turn on, off. And the block tool itself, that way I can mass remove, or I can just leave this turned on. And I can turn off the braking thrust, so I can just cruise going forward. And that should take care a lot of what I need. That should complete the flow of materials up and then into the rotor itself. And then the rotor head, it doesn't need tubes, it just has the ability to be fortified by them. So now I can mine materials and get them into the refinery. And that's what I'll do next, because I know I need some iron. So I will start there. So I can do a little bit of a mass removal. And I will do so with that right click. And I can mass remove what's around me. Sit down here. And as I just kind of let my pod sink, I kind of spin a little bit, as the mass removal will move a substantial area around the drill head. And I can kind of rotate and roll the ship and remove material from every angle. Fortunately, I have to kill all of this ice, but that's okay. I'm sitting on a whole planet of it. And here, we can just press number 9 and grab the iron specifically. A little nickel goes a long way, but we will need a ton of iron for sure. And we can go into our info and see that our inventory, our cockpit is full, and our refinery should be full as well. We can grab that, swap them over, and start to burn through the iron first. Ditto, we can swap over in our cockpit, and we can even go from our cockpit to our inventory with that ice and drop out the ice in front of us. We are successfully landed, and we are refining the materials we need to continue. So for our next stage, we can start building our main facility. And since we have access to cobalts and we know where it's at, we can actually start off with a fairly good layout with everything that we need. This should be a decent place for our base. I suspect we could do pretty well here. Let's start off by pulling it up a couple of blocks. And from there, so I kind of want to be able to walk up to the base. Let's do... I want things on the inside. And let's come out from here. couple of pieces. Ditto here. I forget how wide I need something like this to be, or how long I want something like this to be. Put some pieces like that. And I know I'll need some critical infrastructure. Let's do this. No, I don't want you there like that. We'll see. So that's going to give me a port up. I really don't need an oxygen farm because I'll have plenty of oxygen. I will take this H2O2 generator. I can put you this way, and I can put my survival kit in a cargo container here. Survival kit, and I can put a cargo container. There we go. Could drop you down, and that'll pull it out a little bit. That'll work. That's a decent start for our house, minus the power, which I will need a battery for, before this all disappears. But with just a touch of cobalt and a lot of nickel, I'll be able to make plenty of grids. And those grids will be excellent for the full-sized assembler and the full-sized refinery. And that way I can take the stuff off of that pod. And here we've struck cobalt, finally. Pick some of it up. We really only need a handful for quite some time. There we go. That looks a little more realistic for our queue. A very, very heavy build time, which is why I wanted it to start first. Once we get that battery up on the base and give it a little power, we can switch our manufacturing and our refinement over there. About that time, we should have the resources to start building a new flying miner. One of the things I really, really want to do is get some automation stuff. I almost want like a little platform off the back end here. Have like a welder and a crane arm or something. It's kind of what I want to do. What I can do is put everything into you instead. Much faster at building. Now that tower is pretty low. You can tell by our battery. Fully recharged because I'm not building anything yet. But what I do want is for things to be built. And now assembler working can actually tell what my battery is doing. Fully depleted in 4 hours. That's fair. That's very fair. And what I could do is attach a welder here, and once this welder is online, this welder can just continually build the refinery as it goes. Then I can get to work in that refinery. And let's go grab some more resources. Now for current storage capacity on this, I only have the drill, the cockpit, and the refinery itself worth of capacity, which is actually pretty big. So it's no cargo container worth, but it's a substantial amount of stuff. So at like max thrust, I've got 20 minutes left on this, which is pretty good. Coming along very nicely here. And right now we should be positive for power. I want my battery fully recharged in -3 days. So it's mostly input and output. So we are taking in, so I don't know why it says -3 days, but we are plus power. It'll take it a while, but we are plus power currently while we plan out some stuff. We want a speed module. That'll be good. We can close off a window here. I have girders, do I not? Ooh, you don't like to sit there, do you? I want just... There we go. We'll take that. We can put a window. And then we can put curve. Flat curve. Go. And then let's do more curves because we have curves. Cross. I don't know how far I want it to go. Place. should I do it one more? One more. And how much space do I really need in here? I'll just leave it like that. Let's keep working with the glass. We can do we want this? We have a bigger glass. You're not wanting to cooperate, so we can put a block here and here. There. So now all of that is attached. Should be nice and happy. I can kill this and this, and I'll have this interior space. And looks like another row of underlining blocks. So now I have a small port on there, and I have some more interior plates. So what I can do is I can draw you out, you guys, 2, 3, 4. It's probably going to be a couple. I'm just trying to think a little bit ahead here. I don't usually build like this, but I can just because I have the capability. This will be an all-hydrogen ship, and that's why I wanted the setup the way it is, so it can be piped as I build it. This is pretty stout. I'm kind of liking this. It's going to all ass, and I'm going to blow it up almost immediately. I can almost guarantee it. And now I can put a tank. Okay, I'll hand weld this up, and then this will give me extra ports because I want a piston and a welder to weld my ship for me. And while I'm talking about pistons, I might as well place it. So now that tank can continue to move and fill. How about that? The welder is 2 blocks tall. I'm going to miss the top things because I can't go any higher than that. Ooh, here's another problem. This is going to cause an explosion. The whole thing is too low. I'm going to need to drill that out. Let's get in here. Hop up and move this way. And let's do a mass removal of material under the base. And I really didn't want to do this because deforming the voxels is visible from space, which really isn't ideal for building right next to where I'm mining, but that is what it is as well. My piston, I can move you forward very slowly. How about a... That's probably too fast too. Yeah, I don't even know if I have all the things production is building. I know I need some more tubes because I've told it to do that, and I've stolen some other stuff from you. We'll see how much of that can get built. And I will add another welder. Well, we're adding a welder. One welder builds the other. Unfortunately, it's not going to be so easy with these tubes. And there's always one more flight. So what do I have now? Cockpit and... I have cockpit and drills worth of gathering. Stockpile off. Thrusters. Thrusters are good. Let's get dangerous. Ooh. all the get up and go. Okay, let's turn, and turn. Got some good stability there. Ooh, we don't have power. There we go. Now we've got the stability. There we go. Let's go upright. Keep turning. Windshield wiper our way across. There's some thrusters that are not on. We identify why. Your counterparts are on, but not you. Probably because we are missing materials on just one block. How about that? Nailed it. What do you want, motors? Yep. Let's go and get some more motors into production here. So our fuel is not updating. Let's update that. No. Let's grab some fuel, and that was what I was worried about. Apparently my production is even less than what I thought. Oh, I bet the other tank was on stockpile too. I think I saw it was up. Look it up. Now I can end you. No? There we go. Ready. Stockpile. Yeah. You did not care for that. Thrusters off. You still do not care for that. You do not like the subgrid. Just give me my power. Okay. Now we have ourselves a flying miner. Check that out. Take off like a bat out of hell. There we go. Ooh, that's nice. Check that out. Since I've got all this lift, I could probably just stick a big ore detector on here, but I suspect I shan't need it for long. Humble beginnings, simple solutions. I think what I can do right now is just take a quick pause and kind of enjoy what we've got so far. But for now, we are kind of at the point where our resource gathering is outstripping our ability to refine everything. And that means typically that you have to get more refinery capability going. So I'll have to add another building or so that can get done. And then reorganize the cargo, because what I wanted to be a nice slick little house here is quickly turning into a gobbledygook, and I specifically want to not do that. Until then, go forth and build great things. See you next time.